There comes a moment in every man or woman's life when he or she must come to the realization that there is an end to all things, including life itself. I couldn't actually tell you when my father first came to that realization, but I could tell you that I came to that epiphany for the very first time when his father, my paternal grandfather, passed away. I was only 12 years old at the time, and I remember I had a friend over from school for a sleepover when we suddenly got the news from India that my grandfather had passed. And I observed my father. He was heartbroken. And I observed him as he took phone calls from India offering condolences, as he made plans for a funeral set to take place all the way on the other side of the world. I didn't quite understand much about death at that time. It would take me a few more years when my mother's father passed away, and we went back to India for the first time after that. The previous trip to India, when he was still alive, we were so joyous and happy, but on this trip, the mood was much more somber and morose. But when we arrived to India, we went to my mother's family home in Erevipelur, and I remember we walked into the home, and my mother didn't say anything for a few minutes, it felt like. And she just stood there scanning the room. And my grandmother also didn't say anything. They just both stood there scanning the room. Then they began suddenly to cry and break down. And I realized that what happened was that when my mom walked into that room, she saw all the places that my grandfather used to inhabit, the places he used to eat, sleep, sit, walk. She saw all those places. And he wasn't there any longer. And she felt a great sense of sorrow and emptiness. I know that the next time I enter into my family home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I'm going to feel that same sort of emptiness. I'm going to look in that home and I'm going to see all the places that my father used to inhabit, the places he used to eat at, sleep, sit, the places he used to pray, sing, write, read. I'm going to look at the couch that he used to sit on when he would be up all night thinking of the perfect word or phrase to write an article that he was writing. I'm going to look at the floor that he used to kneel on, that he would pray on all night for an upcoming convention. I'm going to look at the kitchen table he would sit at, composing lyrics, drinking a cup of tea. I'm going to look at all those places. I'm going to feel a great sense of emptiness. But today, right now, as I stand before you all, and I scan the room, I don't feel so empty right now because I see the faces of people who have been touched by his ministry, by his legacy, people that have been touched by his songs, by his sermons, by his books. And because of that, I don't feel so empty right now. I feel fulfilled that God used my father for a great purpose, for a great calling. And that even though he is no longer with us today, his legacy, his memory still lives on. That's what my father taught me all my life. There's a difference between an earthly legacy and a godly legacy. The things of this earth, they rust, they rot, they destroy, they decay. But the things of God, they last forever and ever into eternity. His biggest dream in this life was that I would follow in his footsteps. But the truth is, most of my life, I wasn't interested in reading Christian literature or writing or preaching or any of those things. I had other hobbies and interests. I had friends that I wanted to hang out with, other things that I wanted to do. But my dad always kept pressing and praying for me, and he kept bugging me, actually. There were times where friends of mine from church or people that I knew casually, they would call me out of the blue, and they would ask me to come eat lunch with them. And I would go out and eat with them, but I'd be kind of wondering why they invited me to eat out with them so randomly. But I'd go out to eat with them, and they would begin talking with me, and they would start repeating the same things that my father would start repeating. And I would be wondering why they would be repeating those things. And gradually, over the course of the conversation, I realized that actually my dad had called them, told them to take me out to eat, promised that he would compensate them for the meal, and asked them to repeat the things that he was telling me, but if I heard them from them, maybe I would listen to them. And I would get so irritated at hearing this because I'd be like, why is my dad continuing to bother me about this? Why can't he just let me make my own choices and live my own life? But in the end, his prayers were answered. Today, I'm following after God. I'm involved in a local Malayali Pentecostal church the last several years, and I've been giving all my time, all my effort, all my energy to perform various duties and do different ministries throughout that church. Whether it's in music, Sunday school, preaching whenever the pastor asks, whatever it is, I've been doing because God answered my father's prayer. It would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my mom and my sister for taking care of my father the last several years of his life. As he suffered and went through so much, they had to take care of him as a baby. They had to feed him, clothe him, everything they did for him like a child. And I'm so grateful to them that God gave my father, my mother, and my daughter to help care for him. I want to end with this. When my grandfather had passed, and my father, he was very troubled. He was walking around the house, and he was very worried and concerned, and probably he saw his own mortality coming soon. And he began singing an old famous hymn that many of us had heard. And at that point in my life, I had never heard it, but I've heard it many times since. And he sang that song, and it gave him an encouragement. And I want to sing that song today here for his funeral, to give us all encouragement that not only will we see our fathers in heaven, but all of our loved ones who have left and died in Christ, we will see them rise up again with him up above. There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar. For the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirit shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for the blessings of rest in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore.